The arena orbiting Varkal Prime had tasted blood from 1,000 species, each staining its obsidian sands with sacrifice and spectacle. It was a coliseum not merely of combat, but of reverence. Combatants entered as mortals and left as legends, or didn't leave at all. And today, the Empire demanded something special. General Vortash of the Eternal Blade stood at the center of it all, still as a monolith, his obsidian armor gleaming under the twin suns. At 8 feet tall and built like the exoskeletal statues of old war gods, he was the product of centuries of genetic refining, ritual combat, and sheer survival. Muscles coiled beneath his skin like braided steel. His eyes, luminescent pools of molten gold, scanned the expectant masses with calculated boredom. He had killed champions, emperors, even an assassin who'd entered the arena disguised as his own shadow. None had lasted more than a few minutes. He was undefeated in 879 duels. And yet, for the first time in his career, Vortash felt something foreign trace the edge of his consciousness. Not fear, but curiosity. The human delegation had arrived silently, a mere whisper of bureaucratic permission inked onto a treaty scroll. No ceremonial escort, no thunderous declaration. Just a tall, lanky male in civilian clothing, carrying a flask and a casual shrug. Aaron Briggs. He looked like someone's bored gym teacher, not Earth's chosen warrior. No exosuit, no weapon, not even armor plating beneath his cotton shirt. His boots were dusty, scuffed at the toes. He was humming a song no one else recognized. The crowd didn't jeer, they were too stunned. Even the Empire's high strategos, a being whose blood had long since been replaced by nanosteel and purpose, leaned forward in his balcony seat, antennae twitching in confusion. Vortash watched Aaron stretch lazily, like a man limbering up for a morning jog rather than a death match. The human cracked his neck, then turned his gaze to meet Vortash's. Something about that expression, mild amusement, a touch of pity, struck the general as profoundly inappropriate. Arrogance he could recognize. This was worse. This was indifference. "You are not armed," Vortash called across the pit, voice amplified by the arena's bone-vaulted acoustics. Aaron grinned. "Didn't bring any. Thought this was a duel." The statement fluttered around the crowd like a lost bird. Somewhere in the back, an Iraqi matron let out a snort laugh and was immediately silenced by her brood. "Your death will be swift," Vortash declared, out of habit more than need. His ceremonial blade, Thrextal, was taller than Aaron and forged from the bones of a sunken world beast. It vibrated with harmonic frequencies known to liquefy unshielded organs. He activated it with a thought. It began to sing. Aaron took a sip from his flask and smacked his lips. "You always announce your intentions? Or is this a cultural thing?" A murmur of outrage rolled through the gallery. Vortash ignored it. He was analyzing, calculating. No enhanced musculature, no reinforced spine, no cranial implants, nothing that explained why the humans had sent this. "You are either a fool or a weapon too dangerous to disguise," Vortash said, shifting into a ready stance. "Either way, this ends soon." Aaron smiled again. It wasn't triumphant or mocking. It was tired. "Yeah," he said. "It usually does." The arena's voice AI, a million-year-old construct named Chime, began the formal countdown. Combatants locked. Spectators secured. Atmosphere normalized. "Begin on tone." Vortash rolled his shoulders. He visualized the first 3 moves: feint left, vertical slice, backward sweep. Tested. Perfected. Unavoidable. Aaron scratched the back of his head, blinked up at the digital sun, and yawned.
The tone chimed.
Vortash moved like a falling star, velocity, purpose, inevitability. The sand barely shifted beneath his feet. The blade screamed its deadly lullaby as he closed the distance in less than a second, aiming a decapitating arc meant to end the farce cleanly. But Aaron wasn't there. The blade cut empty air. Vortash's senses recalibrated in microseconds. The human was standing just to his right, hands still in his pockets. No teleportation. No cloaking.
just gone, and then not.
Your pivot's a little stiff, Aaron said conversationally. Hip alignment's off. Vortash spun, thrusting upward. Again, nothing. The blade cracked the arena wall like a whip of gods. The crowd gasped. Aaron was behind him now. You trained to fight monsters. You're very good at it. Vortash turned more slowly this time. The human hadn't moved from his casual pose. He was sipping again. But humans, Aaron continued. We don't fight like you. We don't win like you. We just survive. And sometimes that's enough. The tone had marked the beginning of combat, but Vortash couldn't tell if it had truly started. He hadn't touched the human. He hadn't even come close. He took a breath. Not for air, he didn't need it. But for balance. Composure. Aaron let the flask dangle at his side. You should know, before we really begin. I'm not here to win. Then why are you here? Vortash growled. Aaron's smile faded. For the first time, there was weight in his eyes, something cold and buried under years of restraint. To show you, he said, why you should never ask for a real human fight. Vortash hesitated. He'd faced abominations with mouths for hands, battled fire serpents in the core of a neutron sun. He had stood untouched by nuclear barrages and ripped the heart from a battle engine with his teeth. He knew violence. He was violence. And yet, standing there in the silence before the next clash, facing a man with nothing but a flask and a look of ancient disappointment, Vortash realized something that made his armor feel suddenly insufficient. He was outmatched. And it hadn't even started yet. Vortash launched forward, propelled by gravitic implants so refined they left no signature trace. The sand barely stirred beneath his feet, and yet the arena blurred around him. He brought Thrextol down in a blinding vertical arc, a slash that had once cleaved a battle titan's skull in half. The blade passed through the air, carving sonic fissures into the atmosphere, but Aaron had already stepped aside, the motion effortless, like dodging an awkward handshake. The human didn't raise his hands. He didn't counter. He just walked a lazy semicircle around Vortash, his boots crunching softly in the sand. You're too fast to admire yourself, Aaron said. That's a shame. The crowd loves that part. Vortash didn't respond. His tactical HUD recalibrated. It overlaid Aaron with 10 threat profiles, each more improbable than the last. None matched. No thermal signature spike, no kinetic enhancement. The man moved like a civilian, read like a civilian, and yet the system flagged him as hazard unknown. He swung again, this time lateral, wide, baiting the dodge. Aaron stepped into it. Into it. There was no time to recalculate. Vortash felt a pressure, a single touch, on his wrist. Not a strike. A placement. And suddenly his arm refused to move. The muscles went rigid. Thrextol crashed to the sand beside him with a heavy thud, and the blade went dark, disconnected from his neural thread. He stared at his sword, dumbfounded. Don't worry, Aaron said softly. You'll get it back. Maybe. The crowd had fallen unnaturally silent. No one dared cheer or jeer. The arena had seen upsets before, but this wasn't chaos. This was precision. Controlled demolition. Vortash's training seized control. He drew his backup dagger from a compartment in his vambrace, a vibrating shard designed for internal ruptures, and stabbed without hesitation toward the human's neck. Aaron didn't move. He just looked at Vortash, and for the first time there was no smile. There was memory. I've seen that blade before, Aaron murmured. 6 years ago, on a moon called Siebel II. Your empire used it on a civilian shelter. Vortash froze mid-thrust. That was you, Aaron continued. You killed children. With that. For the first time in 1,000 battles, Vortash felt his grip falter. The blade trembled. His knees nearly followed. He stepped back instinctively, weapon still raised but spirit unsure. How do you know that? Aaron didn't answer. Instead, he took one step forward. Vortash tried to retreat, but his feet stayed rooted. Every nerve fired in warning, but his body ignored them. It wasn't paralysis. It was hesitation, the kind that came from somewhere deeper than muscle. Tell me, Aaron said, voice quiet now, no longer performative. How many lives have you erased without remembering a single one? Vortash blinked. And in that blink he saw flashes, images that didn't belong to him. A child with silver eyes, screaming beneath rubble. A medic crushed under falling debris. A woman singing in a broken language before a drone strike obliterated her. He gasped and staggered backward. Aaron wasn't moving. He hadn't done anything. No implant, no tech, no psychic emission. But Vortash was remembering. I don't understand, he rasped. This isn't my memory. No, Aaron said. It's theirs. Something broke inside Vortash, something foundational. His mind had been shielded since birth, trained to filter emotion, suppress recall. A warrior who grieved could not remain useful. But now he saw faces. Heard names. Smelled blood. He saw a boy reach up toward him, clutching a broken toy. He saw himself crushing it underfoot. Vortash screamed. It wasn't a battle cry. It was raw, animal panic. He threw the dagger as if to exorcise it, but it barely cleared his fingers before clattering to the floor. Aaron stepped closer, not threatening, witnessing. I'm not a soldier, he said. I'm not here to kill you. I'm here to make you feel it. Vortash dropped to his knees. His breathing came in short, staccato bursts. The arena felt smaller, airless. He clawed at his chest, as if ripping open the armor would stop the flood. He had always been unstoppable, unshaken. But now his own mind betrayed him with echoes of his legacy. I can't, he choked. Make it stop. Please. Aaron crouched in front of him, flask tucked away, voice calm. Now you understand what it means to fight a human. We carry every ghost, every mistake. We don't forget. That's our curse. And our weapon. A deep tremor ran through Vortash's frame. Not physical. Not neural. Moral. He curled forward, armored hands covering his ears, as if sound itself had turned toxic. The arena's overseers looked on, paralyzed by confusion. There was no rule for this. No protocol for mental defeat. The high strategos watched, horror slowly dawning in his biomechanical gaze. Aaron stood, dusted his knees, and glanced toward the edge of the arena. I think we're done here. Vortash didn't rise. He didn't speak. His blade, his name, his titles, none of it mattered now. All he had were memories he never wanted and guilt he couldn't undo. Aaron walked toward the exit, his silhouette framed by the harsh arena light. Just before he stepped through the archway, he turned his head slightly. You should have sent someone you were willing to lose. Then he was gone. Vortash did not speak for 6 days. Not to his aides. Not to his physicians. Not even to the Emperor, whose presence once compelled planetary kneeling. He sat alone in a private chamber beneath the arena, a cell lined with memory-dampening foam, built for unstable psionics. But the walls couldn't mute the sounds in his head. The screams. The names. The children. He had been the eternal blade, indomitable, revered. Now he trembled at the sound of his own breath. The medics, unsure what to diagnose, tested him for neurotoxins, psychic intrusion, electromagnetic trauma. They found nothing. No biochemical trace. No evidence of invasive influence. His mind was intact, functionally uninjured. And yet, something inside had been unraveled beyond repair. Eventually, when a junior analyst summoned the courage to enter his chamber, Vortash looked up with hollow eyes and asked, Do you remember their names? The analyst didn't know how to answer. He didn't even know what names the general meant. Never mind, Vortash whispered. I do. In the weeks that followed, the Empire spun the narrative. The human cheated. He used forbidden technology. It was not a true duel. The official record was amended, the footage redacted, and the arena locked for sanitation protocols. But the story leaked anyway. Whispers spread through officer halls and military barracks. The general broke without a scratch. A human faced him with bare hands and walked away while Vortash crumbled. They called it a fluke. Then the flukes multiplied. Human skirmish units on distant colonies began ending battles before they began. Enemies surrendered early. Captured warriors wept during debriefings. One veteran of 23 campaigns reportedly tore out his own eye after interrogation because a human simply asked him, "What did your daughter think of your last deployment?" No weapon was found. No device. Just conversations. And always the same detail. The human never struck first. Sometimes not at all. The High Council convened in secrecy. Proposals ranged from sterilizing Earth to deploying mimetic scramblers. But even the more aggressive factions hesitated. Not from fear of human firepower, they still believed they could crush that, but from something deeper. Something quieter. The knowledge that humans could get inside you, not through machines, but by making you look inward. They fight like mirrors, one admiral said, her mandibles clacking nervously. You strike them, and they reflect what you are. Vortash was offered exile, offered reconstruction, redemption. He refused all of it. He left the core worlds quietly, vanishing from Imperial territory without resistance. No banners. No farewell. He settled on a barren moon circling a lightless gas giant, a forgotten place on no navigational maps, where comms signals died in transit. No guard, no protection. Just distance. There, he built stone markers by hand. One for every face he remembered. They weren't graves, he didn't know where the bodies lay. They were acknowledgments. Memorials carved in silence, without ceremony. Rows upon rows of names in crude glyphs, each one chiseled with deliberate care. As if through pain, he could reshape his soul. Aaron Briggs never returned. He didn't need to. His message had been delivered. But stories filtered back, even here. An Uraki diplomat claimed to have seen Aaron mediating a treaty between two warring tribes in the Outer Belt, his only condition being they speak in front of the children first. A mercenary crew swore they spotted him in a dive bar, drinking with pirates and convincing them to retire, not with threats, but with a question. What do you actually want when the fighting stops? And then there was the report, dismissed as myth, of a warlord who executed his own cabinet after Aaron simply sat in the audience of a public speech. Vortash did not doubt any of it. The man had no army, no empire, no doctrine. He just showed people what they had become. One morning, as the planetless sky blinked overhead, Vortash placed his blade on an altar of basalt. Thrextal had been with him for 3 centuries. Now it looked foreign, absurd. He no longer feared it, but he no longer needed it. He knelt before it. Not in worship, but in farewell. A single sentence escaped his lips, spoken without sorrow or bitterness. I was never the strongest. He rose and turned toward the horizon, where the stars shimmered cold and unblinking. Behind him, the wind picked up, erasing his footprints, as if the war had never happened at all.